He is the man who will be calling Super Bowl 49 on the National Broadcasting Company 2 Sundays from now. Also the author of this book that I'm holding up, bestseller on the New York Times and also Amazon. Lists You Can't Make This Up. Al Michaels. Good to see you again, Al.
What's better than a month in which I get interviewed by you and by Howard Stern?
Wow.
I heard that Howard gave you a fantastic pop yesterday.
I couldn't believe that.
Well, you gave him a great pop. I couldn't agree with you more. He may be the best interviewer
of all time.
Of all time.
It is. And the thing that he does that he is incredible at is get people to open up about things that they wouldn't tell any other interviewer ever. And I'm also jealous, too, because they come in knowing that that's the ground rules for the conversations. And then he goes there and makes them feel comfortable. He's incredible.
We have a place in the desert, so it's a 2.5-hour drive.
Yeah.
But it goes by in about 10 minutes because I listen to Howard all the way.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Well, and when you're on the show, too, I mean, it sounds like you have a blast when you're on the show with Howard Stern.
When you walk out of Howard's studio and you walk onto the street and you look down Fifth Avenue, I think I can jump over the Empire State Building because it's so energizing. First of all, it's like 5 o'clock in my body in the morning, so I'm exhausted when you show up. But there's such energy that when you walk out of there, you feel like you can leap tall buildings in a single bound. So let's have an interview today where I feel like I can at least leap over the plaza here.
It would be my honor to do that. Al Michaels is right here in studio, getting set to call Super Bowl 49. Before we get to any of that conversation, you can't make this up. You could have, I guess, in the paperback, the inflation issue, because you can't make that up either. Where do you stand on this whole Deflategate, as it's being referred to?
I'm learning along with everybody else. I mean, to me, things seem to break every hour. I read something this morning about Brad Johnson. Did you see that story?
Yeah, that he said that he paid somebody to scuff up every football used.
Right.
And you called that?
I called that game. It was Oakland against Tampa Bay and San Diego after the 2002 season. Tampa Bay routed them. John Gruden had just taken over. And then I saw where Brad apparently paid somebody $7,500. I find the irony of this whole thing, and I don't know if this was brought up earlier on your show, but of all the things that would let the cat out of the bag in a way, and that the balls might be deflated or not weighing what they should weigh, is an interception by the Colts, by DeQuell Jackson. So in other words, if you're deflating the ball so that Brady can get a better grip on it or it can be caught more easily, and yet that deflated ball is intercepted. It's intercepted,
Sure.
so that worked against them.
And Andrew Luck's perfectly inflated ball wound up in the hands of Darrelle Revis,
right.
and the kicking ball that has nothing to do with this wound off the face mask of Josh Cribbs that gave the Patriots a short field, the only long field touchdown of the entire first half. Al, they had trouble scoring in the first half with those deflated balls. I don't think there's any issue. In my mind, at least, it didn't affect the AFC Championship game. The better team won that day. The only question is that if this did happen, why are the Patriots doing this sort of thing? If they are the better prepared team, if they are the better skilled team, if they are the better drafted team, why do this sort of thing?
I don't know. Well, we all know that, in football and in corporate America, everybody's trying to skirt the edges. Everybody's trying to get a little bit of an advantage. There's always gamesmanship. So where's the line between gamesmanship and cheating? I mean, some people were contending, the Baltimore Ravens in particular, that, when New England came up with the formation where Vereen, who normally would be an eligible receiver, reports as ineligible, and Baltimore can't quite get the defense together. And so now all of a sudden, that wasn't cheating. That was, hey, they outsmarted them.
Yes.
For at least a few plays.
No doubt.
But now, of course, I know this is so big now because of what happened in 2007 with Spygate. So there are people there's a lot of schadenfreude in the world. You know that. There are people who just hate the Patriots because the Patriots have been so good for so long. So now they bring back Spygate. They bring back every wart that they can put on the New England Patriots and say that, hey, they couldn't have done this without this. They could have, And who knows, too, Rich? Who knows? This is not the first time it's happened. I mean, with Brad Johnson today saying he was getting the balls back. So how many times has this happened through the years? I don't know. It makes for a good off-week story.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious to see how long this lasts, if this has legs. And are we talking about this next week?
I think
in
there's
Phoenix?
no doubt. I mean, clearly you guys are outstanding at what you do and how you do it with Fred Godelli and Esikoff, your director, and Cris. There's going to be some point during your broadcast 2 Sundays from now where you touch upon this for sure. I mean, because the whole country is talking about it right now. Media Day, that'll be certainly a focus on this no matter how, because the league is going to at some point make a statement, if not adjudicate this matter.
Sure.
For sure, I think at some point during your broadcast in 2 Sundays.
We'll just see what happens. I mean,
Sure.
what are we, 10 or 11 days out right now?
Right.
So let's see where it goes. You know, we're not doing the game today.
Right.
And so we'll see where it goes, how it winds up. Look, we did a Sunday night game in 07. We did the game on Sunday night after Spygate had broken on Monday, and we did the game. And I interviewed Bob Kraft at halftime.
Right.
And he was upset, and because you know how he feels about his franchise, and he feels everybody who works for that organization and plays for that organization is part of the Kraft family. He told me once when he brought Randy Moss in, he said, "Hey, look, if I'm going to sign you, I want you to think of your name as Randy Moss Kraft. Yeah. You're part of the family."
Right.
So, Bob hated that, and I'm sure he's not in love with what's happening this week either.
Al Michaels is here in studio. You all, as you've said, called that Ravens Patriots game. Do you think it's fair in retrospect to say that was the AFC Championship game based on what we saw on Sunday?
Well, I thought Indianapolis would play better than they did. It's hard to say. I mean, look, Baltimore gets to that game because Pittsburgh doesn't have. I'm not saying they don't win the game if Le'Veon Bell is healthy, but maybe Pittsburgh wins that game. Who knows? And then Indianapolis would have gone to New England, in the preliminary round, right? And Pittsburgh would have gone to Denver. So you don't know. I mean, I just think it's so ironic with New England because we did Week 5 on Sunday night. Cris and I were there. They were 2-2. They were coming off that rout by Kansas City on Monday night. I mean, I've never seen media like that. I mean, everybody's crazy around the country these days, and in particular in Boston, they're full of passion, and they've got some great writers there, and I love reading their sports sections. But my God, it was like Belichick has lost it, Kraft has lost it. They're no good in the front office, and Brady stinks. Let's start Garoppolo. I mean, these were the stories, really, when they were 2-2, and the next thing you know, they were 9-2, and here they are in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They work through everything, and they've done it for years. I mean, the thing about New England, how many times have they been out of contention since the mid-'90s? Almost,
never.
In the late 90s, there was this and that. With Belichick, they're never out of contention.
Yeah, well, they missed the playoffs in the Brady year
when they won 10 games.
Because I thought there was 11, right?
Yeah, they may have won 11. Yeah,
they just had an absurd number of 11-win teams that year.
Matt
Castle were out.
Yeah.
Al Michaels is here in studio, and without this whole deflate PSI New England discussion that we're having, we would still probably be picking through the ashes of the Packers disaster in Seattle. Where does that rank in the games that you have just seen? I know then you got your whole book. You can't make this up. You've seen it all.
Yep.
But that was remarkably unprecedented. What happened to Green Bay?
That could be in the paperback. Well, I mean, how often have you seen a team look so bad for 56 minutes, and then so good, with some help from Green Bay, of course? Could have knocked down maybe that 2-point conversion, which was gigantic. At that point, obviously, we know all about the onside kick. It was crazy. But again, it goes back to why we love sports, why we love football. It's unscripted drama. It's the only thing that's really unscripted on television because, reality television is ridiculous now. It's worse than scripted television because the people doing reality TV, now they're already thinking about what they're going to do and how they're going to act. So that's scripted television. So the NFL and this show are the only unscripted shows remaining in television today.
I'm making the stuff up. Yeah, no, I'm fully scripted. No, but I know what you're saying. I mean, in terms of what happened in that game, I'm just wondering what Mike McCarthy is thinking about. Should he have gone for it the second time that he was on the doorstep in the first quarter as opposed to kicking field goals both times? Morgan Burnett's slide to me, after picking off Russell Wilson with 5 and change to go, is the biggest head scratcher, because the other ones are either well thought out or well-intentioned strategic moves. Mm-hmm. The other one is just a gaffe by a second-year player out of Newberry College who didn't block as opposed to trying to go for the onside kick.
Right, and the ball is right there. I can't blame him. I mean, you're supposed to block for Jordy Nelson, but here comes the floating football.
I know. Go get it.
And by the way, who was it? Was it Marlon McCree? Remember in the AFC Championship game, or maybe it was in the divisional round, New England against San Diego a few years ago, where Brady had thrown an interception. Was it Marlon McCree? And then he tried to run with the interception and fumbled it back. And that led to so, there were 18 million things you can go, I should have, maybe he kind of should have done this.
Right.
I mean, in the heat of the battle and all of that, crazy stuff, it's going to happen.
Right, and you called the first game of the year in Seattle against Green Bay, and at the time, people were saying this could be the NFC Championship Game matchup, and it turned out to be that case.
Even though it didn't look like it that night because Seattle routed them by 20.
Right. So. Totally different team with Percy Harvin there, and they were Jared Boykin was playing half the snaps. And
right. They didn't want to go to Richard Sherman. Lacey got hurt in the game. So 18 million things happened over the 4-month period, which is why we love this thing. You know that.
I know. And it's remarkable how they didn't test, quote-unquote, Richard Sherman in that first game, and then Richard Sherman picks off Aaron Rodgers in the first possession of the game, just when you thought maybe they'll get points. And then Russell Wilson turns it over. Then they do get the points. Then they get the ball back. Because of the fumble.
How tough was Richard Sherman the other day, too? I mean, you could see he's just dying.
Well, that's the thing, too.
That was tremendous.
Of the play calling, Al, you got to test him once. I know you're trying to run the ball, run the clock out.
Yeah.
I know you're trying to make sure that Pete Carroll doesn't have timeouts in his back pocket for a potential comeback. You just got to test him once, right? I mean, his arm was practically hanging off his body. This is all pure second guessing, obviously.
Right.
Because it shouldn't have happened. The comeback shouldn't have happened.
It shouldn't, but it did. So, it gives us 2 weeks of chatter.
Except when there's air in the football or not. And when we come back, I want to talk about Super Bowl 49 with you. You'll be calling with Cris Collinsworth, and also the book You Can't Make This Up. It's available on Amazon.com. I'm sure you all got Christmas or Hanukkah presents, an Amazon card. Go ahead and buy this book. It's fantastic. The stories in this, you could have made 3 books. I'm sure one is enough for you.
Buy it for Groundhog Day, too, February 2nd.
There it is. I love it. There you go. Yeah, I love it. Al Michaels is here in studio. Your phone calls, 844-204-RICH. Taylor Lautner is also here in studio. Dennis Haysbert in Hour 3 here on The Rich Eisen Show. All right, Al, I hold in my hands 2 footballs, 2 Dukes, one at 10.5 PSI. Which is what apparently it was 2 pounds. It was 2 PSI less that law, Brockman?
It was 2 pounds less, yeah.
Yep. I hold in my hands one that's 13.5, which is the highest end of the. All right, and I have them in my hands.
That's how Aaron Rodgers likes it.
And it's now time for Al Michaels to see if he can tell the difference. Which one is that one, Al? I feel like it's like you're in the produce department. What is that?
Right.
All right.
This is 13. I can tell right now.
You can?
13. Yep.
Give that one a try. Is it ripe?
12.9.
One is 10, one's 10.5, one's 13.5.
These feel very similar.
Yeah.
It sounds like you want an outcome here, though, Rick. Like, you're saying there's no difference. There's a difference.
No, because everybody's talking about it. Nobody's really putting in their minds what it might actually mean.
But Chris Carter said, and Peter, the fumbling issue is a real thing.
So which one is which, do you think?
These are very similar. You wonder maybe they weighed them in kilos?
I don't
know. Maybe that's where they screwed this whole thing up? Yeah.
Walt Anderson might be like secretly Serbian or something, and he went metric? No, you were right. The first one was 13.5, and this one's 10.5. I cannot tell the difference.
No, I can't tell the difference.
You can't tell the difference.
No.
We're back with more with Al Michaels in a moment. Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show. Al Michaels in studio. His book, You Can't Make This Up, available in bookstores, Amazon.com. Go get it. It's a great book. Calling Super Bowl 49 with Cris Collinsworth a couple of Sundays from now on NBC. And this may be a little bit inside baseball, as we call it in the media business. But it appeared you guys were definitely in the divisional round when the game that you called Baltimore at New England. You were right on what was happening with the eligible receivers declaring himself ineligible. How did you guys realize that? Was there somebody in the truck? Was that Cris Collinsworth sitting next to you saying, wait a minute, I'm seeing this, or I'm hearing it over the loudspeaker, Vereen being ineligible? How did that go down?
Well, it started with Harbaugh coming out and getting the penalty. So then our guys are so good, and we got a lot of people who are involved in, watching certain things in the truck and also with the naked eye. And, Cris obviously is fantastic, doesn't miss anything. So Harbaugh was so upset that we, as the game is proceeding, he gets the penalty. Our guys downstairs are looking for, what is he so upset about? And then they found this, and they found it very, very quickly. And they could see, we had a shot of Vereen going to Vinovich, the referee, and saying ineligible, which you rarely see. You always see, and they'll announce that, like Nate Solder the other day had a report as an eligible receiver and winds up catching a tackle eligible pass for the touchdown. But very rarely do you see somebody wearing an eligible number reporting as ineligible.
I've never seen it.
And then pretending that, he's eligible by taking a step back. So it's a compilation. It's Freddie. It's the guys in the tape truck. It's a lot of people saying, let's go find what Harbaugh is so exorcised about. And they got it.
They did. And you nailed it and explained it perfectly. And obviously, Pete Carroll will have weeks to prepare for that.
2 weeks anyway.
As does the referee, Bill Vinovich. He's refereeing the Super Bowl, that referee that you're referring to. So he's reffing this game between Seattle and New England. Week and a half out, first blush. What do you think this game is going to be about between Seattle and New England, Al?
I think it's going to be about, just how the Seattle defense, which is so good, takes care of Tom Brady. And I think one of the keys is going to be, when you look at the two running backs, it's almost like you have identical twins. So how big a role are those guys going to play? You know that Marshawn Lynch figures to play a very big role. What about LeGarrette Blount? Look at the way they won their 2 games without any running game at all against Baltimore, and then with a big-time running game against Indianapolis. So which way does Belichick go? And he always finds something. And we know that, that Belichick always tries to take out somebody. Or when I say take out, he obviously tries to take him out of the mix of the game, of the importance of what they're trying to do. And that would have to be LeGarrette Blount, you would think. Who else is he going to really...
You mean Lynch?
I'm sorry.
No, they both run...
I meant Lynch.
Sure. It has to be Lynch. You're right.
It has to be Lynch, because who else is it going to be? Is it going to be Doug Baldwin? Is it going to be Jermaine Kearse? Well, yeah, they want to take care of those guys, but not to the extent that that's their focus. Their focus is going to be Marshawn Lynch. But then again, it's one thing to take Lynch away if you can, but the other thing is you got Russell Wilson, who really led the league or second in the league in rushing average this year. So you've got Russell is not only a great quarterback and can throw the ball, which we know, he can run it. So I find that to be one of the more fascinating storylines going into the game.
Yeah, and then the storyline going into the game is that he has an opportunity to be the first quarterback to win back-to-back Super Bowls than the guy who's in the opposite field, on the opposite sideline, who's also a guy who needed that opportunity from a head coach to say, all right, I'm going to give you this shot here, and made the most of it. They sort of have a similar path, Big Ten guys too, even though I know Russell started with NC State. But it's just an interesting aspect here that Russell Wilson's going for back-to-back championships and may prevent Brady from getting that 4th one that he's tried now twice to get, including the first time he was in that building with the Tyree catch. It's just out there, I'm beginning to see these strands of a storyline that we're going to be talking about over the next 10 days.
Two really good quarterbacks with disparate styles. One picked in the 6th round, 199th. The other in the 3rd round. The Russell Wilson story is just amazing, and we've told it many times on the air, and I'm sure everybody else has dealt with it too. But the fact that they had gone out, they'd signed Matt Flynn to a big contract 3 years ago, and he's going to be their guy. And they pick a guy in the 3rd round, Russell Wilson, and you have to figure, okay, this is a backup guy, because Flynn's going to be the guy. They paid Flynn a ton of money.
Right.
And then for Pete Carroll Flynn never even made it to the starting lineup on opening day. All of a sudden, it's Russell Wilson. They saw him, and to go with a guy who's 5'10" maybe, and a different kind of quarterback and what he does, the read option and all of the rest. So Carroll gets all the credit in the world, and John Schneider. They've got a tremendous operation up there. And then to have the guts to basically say, okay, we're paying Flynn millions and millions of dollars, but, too bad. Russell's the guy.
Yeah,
and it turned out to be the guy.
It also helps to have an owner who has that much money in his couch cushions,
Right.
I mean, we're basically like, yeah, sure, we paid him that much,
whatever
if it fits
it is.
under the cap, whatever.
But still, you got to fit it under the cap.
Sure.
And they had to manipulate certain things.
They had to. And
Flynn wound up, going to Oakland and then back to Green Bay.
Yes, and then the fact that, again, Pete Carroll had the cojones, as you say,
Right.
to go ahead and say, let's go do it and sell it to the team. But Russell Wilson is the personification, as we mentioned all throughout leading up to the Super Bowl last year, of Pete Carroll's always compete mantra, that if you go out there and compete, you have a shot. And after the game last year, after they won it, Pete Carroll came on our set after the game in the postgame and told a story about how when he first met Russell Wilson in the talent evaluation portion of the calendar that's about to start this year, that John Schneider told him, all right, I like the kid, you're going to meet him, but the first thing you're going to think is that he's too good to be true. Mm-hmm. Guess what?
Yeah,
he
on every
is
level.
That good. He is that good. So look past that.
Sure.
And sure enough, here he is back in the Super Bowl again.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
It's
I
mean, as I say, you've got the two really good quarterbacks, guys who have, one guy has 3 rings, the other guy has 1, looking for his second. They go about it in disparate ways, but it's going to be fun. I mean, that's part of the contrast that is in this game. Plus, you got Pete Carroll, who was the guy who preceded Belichick in New England. How about Pete? Folding in between Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick.
Yeah,
I mean, he's the one guy between those two.
Yeah, the last time we mentioned the Super Bowl, the last time where a coach took on his direct successor was Gruden taking on Callahan.
Right.
And the only other time that happened was Super Bowl III, Weeb Eubank taking on Don Shula.
And we know what happened there, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, Super Bowl 49 comes. I know you and Chris are going to visit our set in our Super Bowl show, which
we will.
I look forward to that. We'll talk more about it. So while I have you here, just with 2 minutes to go in our conversation, what is it going to be like for you? Even though, again, you've got this book, you can't make this up. You've done so many great things, the Earthquake World Series, the Miracle on Ice, et cetera, et cetera. We could go on and on. But what is it like for you at this stage of your life, your career, to be in the booth prior to a Super Bowl? What is that going to be like for you, Al, when you know that the whole country's settling in for this game?
It's great, and fortunately, I have the experience. This will be number 9 for me. The first one was back in 1988 in San Diego. So it's very exciting. It's wonderful. Look, it's an unofficial national holiday is what it is. Mm-hmm. This is what I've always wanted to do, broadcast sports. To do the Super Bowl, if I can't get excited for this, then you should send me to Forest Lawn or wherever, or someplace else on the way to Forest Lawn. I mean, this is wonderful. And it's so funny because fans sometimes think announcers are rooting. I'll tell you what we're rooting for: drama, high drama, a lot of crazy stuff, some controversy, and what I'd really love to see happen a week from Sunday: triple overtime. It's amazing. The Super Bowl has never gone to overtime. I did the one that probably came closest, St. Louis, Tennessee, where Kevin Dyson is reaching for the end zone. Yeah. That would have tied the game, sent it to OT. Instead, he came up a yard short. That's as close as you can get. So that's the one thing I'd really love to do. I want to do, as long as we're going to go to overtime, let's go to triple overtime and make it the longest game ever played.
Yeah, it was funny. Just one last quick story is the year before that Super Bowl, I was with Jeff Fisher at an ESPN event watching the Super Bowl between Green Bay and Denver, and I asked him, should they just after Green Bay let Denver score and they're marching down the field, I said, if they score, should they go for 2? And he looked at me like I was absolutely crazy. And so the next year, I'm watching this Super Bowl at somebody's house in New York, and somebody's like, if Tennessee scores, are they going to go for 2? And I'm like, I have the answer to that question. No, they would not.
No.
Unfortunately for them, they never got that chance. Al, thanks for coming in. You are the best,
Rich,
brother.
That you are, you're the best next to Howard Stern.
I
right?
will take that any day of the week, twice on Sunday or Saturday night.
But you're much
John
younger than
would
Howard,
say.
so you have a chance to,
anything in the same breath as Howard is something as a Staten Islander who listened to him on WNBC. I'll take it. Thanks, Al.
See you in Arizona.
See you in Arizona.
Great,
That's Al Michaels again. Get his book. You Can't Make This Up. It's a great, spectacular read, and it's got all such great stories that I'd love to have you come back in the off season or non-playing season. Tell some more.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.